Did you ever see something on the internet that's super confusing because it might be true, but you aren't sure how it relates to you? Today, I'm teaming up with special guests to talk about Cheetos in the UK, Rouse tomato sauce, plus mushrooms and coffee, and your hardworking liver. Let's do this. You are listening to the Women's Gut Health Podcast. I'm Molly, integrative functional dietitian, ex chef, and gut health expert. If you're struggling with constipation, diarrhea, or bloating, I know exactly how you feel because I've had Crohn's disease for almost 30 years. Each week, we'll dive into symptoms, trends, recipes, and navigate the complex landscape of women's health together, all based on scientific evidence, but in a way that makes sense. Ready to understand your body? Good. Let's go. Today, I have with me a badass female CEO and someone who knows much more about hormones than me. She's a master of science in acupuncture and oriental medicine, a licensed acupuncturist, certified functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner. Plus, she's the founder of my personal favorite supplement, Supercube. Welcome, Lara.
Welcome. Thank you, dear. I appreciate you having me.
Oh my God. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I just returned from a power yoga and HIIT class, so my muscles are screaming for protein, which I will give it as soon as we are done talking.
Amazing. Okay, so the way that we start the podcast is I'm going to ask you what your favorite thing that you ate this week is, and it doesn't have to be healthy. And then I'm going to ask you if you saw anything on the World Wide Web that you want to talk about. Does that sound good?
That's amazing. I'm in.
Okay, what was your favorite thing that you ate this week?
Well, being a busy mother of two children and two businesses, when I can get a win for everybody that, a meal or a snack or just something that everybody loves
Hmm.
and is also somewhat nutritious, I feel like I could climb mountains.
No
And
kidding.
this weekend, my boys had, soccer games, baseball games, whatever. They were pretty early, and my boys are usually pretty peckish in the morning in terms of their appetite. And I was like, man, what am I going to get in them and me so that we can make it to these games and not feel like we're just sitting there, starving with low blood sugar and they're not running around with no fuel. So it was a simple smoothie. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything too crazy, but I was able to sneak in some collagen peptides and some colostrum. And like I snuck a bunch of powders in there and I put a little bit of the, microbiome labs. I threw in some of their, main probiotic and just some cashew milk and a half a banana and some berries.
Mm.
And it was so good. And we all just took it down, and the boys were like, this is so yummy. So I felt really great that we were all getting, well, and where I am in my hormones in life, protein is so important. And
Hmm.
so I felt great knowing I started the day, I already had two super cubes, but I was like, okay, I need actual like new, like something to chew, something to bring down that's a little different than just my coffee and all the nutrients in there. So it was really great. I loved that. It was a win. It was a win in the Dilks house.
Yes, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, the best thing I ate was this week probably oysters. I go on and off, so I'm from Maine and there are oysters everywhere in Maine. But down here in
Yes.
the South, it's different. They're like softer and they are not as salty and they're just like not, I don't think it's good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But there's a restaurant in town that does a half price oysters on Sundays. And
Yes.
they're oysters and they were so good.
Oh, how many did you eat?
11.
There you go. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, and that's so good. And now, your immune system is rocking because aren't oysters really high in zinc? One of the foods?
They are high in zinc.
They are. They are, correct? Sorry, you cut out a little bit
Yes,
there.
100%.
Mm, so good. And zinc is such a hard thing to get. And if you love those slimy little devils, it's so great.
It is. It is. Yeah. And I don't know, like the seafood in the mountains of South Carolina is not like in Maine or Portland, Oregon, for that matter.
I wonder why.
It's not always on point. But yeah, okay. And then something from the internet that you saw that you were like, what? Either in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah. So honestly, it's a bit of a theme that's happening for me. I've been thinking about this since you and I chatted about this conversation, and I was like, you know what? What's really kind of I wanted to, kind of get your opinion on and talk to you about too, is that I am just seeing so many things about, there's these picture side by side pictures, a static picture of, Cheetos in the United States and Cheetos in the UK, that
Mm-hmm.
there's, sneaking in so many ingredients that aren't in other countries. And I understand that they don't allow them there and so on. Um, but also just, how food has changed since, even just years ago. Like our parents may have eaten, or even their parents may have eaten these like low fat, diets with a lot more of the pyramid that, the current pyramid that they think is the best way to eat, but they didn't have as many chemicals, I don't think, as we do. And I've just been kind of thinking about that from like a macro perspective, in terms like on the globe, there's these pockets of places where there's a lot of chemicals. And then also over
Mm-hmm.
time, we're just kind of getting more overloaded with them. And, food is unfortunately becoming one of those things that people are getting anxiety about. And I don't know, that just really kind of hit me hard this week in terms of just holding space for people, not only in the acupuncture clinic, but in terms of just like coaching people through eating and whatnot. And I know that you do this too. So I was like, man, I bet Molly would have some fun things to say about this. So yeah, that's kind of what's been on my mind is I'd really love it if food was just actually food.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I love Cheetos, and I do think that this is an awesome thing to bring up because they are different when they're not in the United States. And it's so weird because when I was learning about like the evolution of food and all of that, like in undergraduate,
Mm-hmm.
these snack foods didn't really come about until not that long ago, like 80s, 90s, where what was happening is we're producing all of this corn and all of this soy for other
Yes.
countries. So it came from a good place, right? We wanted to create food in surplus because we are a wealthy country, because we have these resources, and then provide it to other places in the world. But then, I think the one of the reasons that the US is considered, where it is because of the fact that there's always some financial motivation. And what happened is that people who did kind of invest in the snack food industry immediately knew that they wanted snack foods to be something that people kept buying. And so, they were using byproducts, not even so much byproducts as like, you know, products of the corn that were left over from whatever they were doing and sending in one way or another. So, same with corn syrup. Like, corn syrup is basically trash that they then learned how to make money out of. Does that make sense?
Yes,
And they were like,
absolutely.
this is
And
a lot cheaper than sugar.
yeah, yeah, and my business brain is like, oh, look at them. They're doing a great job using the whole part of the plant. And then I'm like,
Right.
oh, but it's just terrible for you. That's actually extremely inappropriate and really, really outside of the bounds of, what is good for humankind. And it's sad that profit takes a hold in those type of decisions. It's really
Right.
sad. I wish there was a line and incentives and just a different way that we could approach it in terms of being able to move forward with food that's actually food and just, yeah, not feel. I think that was the thing too, is just feel so anxious about the food choices that you're making. That's, I know
Mm-hmm.
that when people don't have a background in understanding where food comes from and why, and remembering that what's good for them is what's good for them, and having a good practitioner by their side, and a family that supports them. All those things are a great way to set yourself up for success with being able to live off of the environment around us and what it produces. But it's hard when you can't trust a lot of the food companies. It's really hard, and you have to have a lot of knowledge. You really do.
Hmm.
And it's tricky. And you know, I see people all the time at the grocery store standing there looking quite dumbfounded. And I'm like, well, okay, you're in the middle six aisles, which you could completely just never shop in and you'd be way better off. You just go to the edges where like the natural food section is, and the and you know, the produce and the meats, and you know, you got to find your way to those edges. There's not much in the inside except a lot of, you know, processed stuff that can sit on those shelves for a real long time.
For sure. And the other thing that comes out though is that, you know, healthy food is something that can be accessible at every price point. And I do think that there's room, for some things in the center aisle. So I might disagree with you a little bit there, just because I love Cheetos so much. It's upsetting because Cheetos in the UK are colored with paprika and Cheetos in the US are colored with red dye. And I just
Yes.
wish that it didn't have to be like that. And California's taking these steps now to remove some of the dyes from foods in schools. And I don't have kids, so I didn't realize that schools have vending machines nowadays.
Oh, wow. My
Because
child's
where
school
where
does not,
you
but
know
I did not know
school.
that.
Like who gets them? But I guess because there are vending machines and stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's too much. That's just too much.
California for a long time has kept certain chemicals out of supplements, like there'll be supplements that are for California only. Um,
Mhm.
And that did not catch on in the rest of the US. So I don't know if them banning red dye is really going to catch on in the rest of the US either, but I wish it would.
Oh, yeah, that would be so nice. It would be so nice
It,
just to have the
yes.
option. And I mean, we have a big hot Cheeto fan in my house. My youngest really loves him some hot Cheetos, and I'm always like, "Is your mouth on fire afterwards?" And I swear, I swear his mouth is bright red and on fire, and I'm like, "Oh man." You know, but I think about the amount of candy and stuff that I ate when I was a kid. Like, I
Yeah.
definitely took a couple dollars to the grocery store and had so much fun, you know, the corner store, picking out my
Hmm.
little candies and eating it in the backyard, and then finally turning around and eating the vegetables that were there. You know, good balance, but
Yes. I mean, and there's room for this stuff, but at the same time, it's like, gosh, like I wish there weren't so many chemicals. I mean, there are natural alternatives that have fewer ingredients and whatever. And I do think that being so, too concerned with every single ingredient is also a form of an issue because when you get stressed out, then your nervous system is
yes.
not operating right, right?
Yes, 100%. And that's kind of, you
We
know,
don't want
like,
food.
no, we don't want food to make you anxious. It should make you feel nourished and connected with your community and your family, and you should feel grounded, you know, when you're cooking it. I can't, I mean, I'm in the healthcare industry with my acupuncture practice, and it is ridiculous how that industry is just falling apart and how many people I have to see in an hour, you know, in order to kind of, you know, keep the doors open and pay the bills and make a living. And I stand up at my desk and eat a lot of times just because that's
Yeah,
kind of the way that it is. I only work, you
right.
know, 3 days in the clinic a week. So thankfully I get time to eat sitting other days of the week. But that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. You know, I was thinking about, you know, how this kind of relates back a little bit to like Chinese medicine and just the way that we think about how people engage with like their macro community, their, you know, so like the globe and just kind of the US, and then how they, you know, navigate their, you know, family and communities and work relationships,
Mm.
and then also just like your relationship with food in general. And what's interesting is that, you know, with I was thinking about that anxiety and how to like understand where people are coming from when they're experiencing this, like, I just want to eat food that's good for me. I don't want to follow some crazy, you know, you know, cookie cutter diet. I just, you know, I want someone to hold my hand and help me understand what works for me so that I feel empowered to make better choices. And
Mhm.
in Chinese medicine, when we kind of come up against these decisions, our bodies engage certain organs to help us, like the energy of the organs to help us respond. And in our world, we're responding to a lot of things that maybe we had expectations for that are just literally not coming through. So, like, the liver's energy loves to be free and able to express itself. And when you feel like you're in the flow of your day, it is like so happy and ready to do all the functions that it needs to physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it. Like the liver has aspects of all of that. And this is in,
Mm,
the traditional Chinese medicine bubble. So if you're moving through the world where every turn you're running into something that is just not what you expected, you're constantly pivoting, you're running into issues here, there, and the other, and you feel like this tense energy come up about you. I feel like when it comes to food, that we're in a world where there is a little bit of that anxiety where you're kind of like, okay, can I eat this? Is this good for me? Is this not good for me? And
mm-hmm.
then the liver starts to get excited, and then you layer, I shouldn't say excited, but the liver engages in terms of its ability to help you navigate that that thought process, that constant engagement with trying to consistently solve problems, and react to and respond in a way that feels good to you on what's happening. Like the liver jumps up and it's like, I got you, we're going to do this. And this is again in the energetic
Oh,
bubble. And then I thought, man, and our food is getting more
what?
toxic, which now the liver's working like double time. Not only are we like
Yeah.
anxious about the food and engaging our liver to work harder energetically, but we're also asking it to work harder in a sense of the toxic level of the foods. And, I don't know what the solution is in the long run. I guess we can just respond the best way we can to the things that are happening in front of us and make the best choices we can. And again, have a good partner with us on our side to help make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's no wonder that we see so many things where people are, stuck and frustrated and wanting to have that feeling of confidence and comfort and knowing that everything that they cook and put in their body is, either something that they're willing to put in and know their body's going to do perfectly fine with it, even though it's hot Cheetos, or they know it's going to be great. Most of the time we want to put things in that are going to be great for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
No, I totally get that. That's really interesting.
Right?
I never
I
think
like to kind of bring up the
about
Chinese
that.
medicine piece because I don't think people think about things that way. And that's like the bubble I talk in all day and then like put needles
Mm-hmm.
into people and adjust it. And then they kind of like resonate with the energy of what it feels like to have that balance in the liver energy. So I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there to kind of plant the seed of that like energetic engagement with the world because it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Wow. That little baby liver's just working overtime.
Oh my gosh, all the time. All the time.
Hmm. Okay, well, that was really interesting. My internet thing is somebody sent me something about Rayo's tomato sauce, and it's some guy, and he's in the. It wasn't Bobby, who I do not like, but it's some guy who's in the grocery store, and he's like, "Oh, you know, this tomato sauce is garbage because it has virgin olive oil instead of extra virgin olive oil." And he went on this whole diatribe about how Rayo's is not organic and not non-GMO. And someone asked me my thoughts on it and on Instagram, and I was like, you know what, that's a good question. So I kind of dug in a little more because Rayo's became popular during the whole 30 craze because they don't use sugar to flavor their sauces like most tomato sauces call for, 5 grams of sugar per serving, which
Sure.
honestly, grand scheme of things, not my number one thing that I'm concerned about. But
Yeah.
Rayo's is also very good, like delicious, right? So then I was like, oh, I didn't realize it wasn't organic since it's 9.50. Um,
Yeah,
and so I
right.
kind of like looked into
It's a
it,
whole
and
nother issue.
tomato sauce prices are unbelievable. I always like wait until something's buy one get one, and then I just get it. I'm not loyal to tomato sauce. Um,
Yes.
But so I looked, and there's like 7 grams of fat per serving of Rails, which is like half cup or something. And that's actually more than in most sauces. So they're using, because I was like, oh, it can't be that much oil anyway. And then I was like, oh, that's actually like almost a tablespoon of oil per serving. And that is because they're using fat for flavor instead of sugar. Um,
I love
but
that.
then virgin olive oil. So we'll do a whole episode on oils, maybe 150 episodes on oils, because again, like the overarching thing is we want you to eat food that nourishes your body, that fits in your budget, and that doesn't stress you out. Those
Yes.
are the most. So, if $10 pasta sauce isn't something that you're going to spend money on, that's fine. But I think
Mhm.
the Do I think it's trash? No. But do I think that it's kind of messed up that they're not even using extra virgin olive oil and they're like, they've built their reputation? And I know they have that restaurant that's really popular, but they've built their reputation in the rest of America because they're supposed to be healthier. And I think it's interesting. It's just so interesting to me that they're using an olive oil that probably is mixed a little bit with some kind of filler like canola oil, or is kind of like a, you know, second or third press. So it's not the highest quality. It doesn't have the most polyphenols, which are nutrients from those olives, phytochemicals from the
Mhm.
plant.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so but like, is it trash? You know, that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yes, I totally hear you on that one. And I think, you're even if it is second or third press it, everybody wants to have the first, of course, because you're getting the essential fats that are so
And
good
that's the
for
extra.
every part of you. Yeah, that's the extra
Right.
part, right? Is that what that means? Is
Yeah.
the extra part?
Yeah.
I guess I never
Hmm.
realized the difference between extra and then just virgin. I'm like,
I know.
wait,
I don't know.
wait, do
Now,
I
I
know
know.
that? I'm like, wait a second. I always buy the extra because I'm like, oh, that had, that's I'm guessing. Well, I'm assuming that this is like they pressed it one time. I'm getting the best part of the first process that they're doing, of course, and I want it to be organic, of course. Um, I always spend a lot of money on olive oil. It's terrible, actually. It's terrible. That's one thing I don't skimp on. Um, but
It
that's really
is
interesting. So if you're like, what, Molly, this brings up for me is this whole like my kids ask me this sometimes. They're like, "Mom, is this food good for you?" I'm like, "Man, that is such a loaded question." I was like, "How do you think I'm going to answer that?" And they're like, "Well, if it doesn't work for your body, then it's probably not very good. And if it's not a close thing to nature, then it's probably not either." And I'm like, "Yes, exactly. So why are you continuing to ask me if this food is good or bad?" You know what I mean? I'm like, what are your goals with food, like with this tomato sauce, right? Like, is this man trying to eat so
exactly
extremely healthy, quote unquote healthy, or like clean? Like, is he doing this intense liver cleanse where he can't have like one thing come in that is outside of this spectrum of this specific thing that he's doing? Or is it like, oh, you're just kind of eating normally, which hopefully means he's avoiding those types of things in general, as much as he can
mm,
within his budget and his time and accessibility and everything. But yeah, it kind of makes me wonder. I don't know. And that, well, and I guess too, just having, I'm so glad it's not canola oil. I'm
right,
like, I'm just so
right,
glad it's not an actual like rancid, unusable oil for your body. At least the virgin olive oil is going to be somewhat useful, and your liver at least knows how to handle that. Like your body can
right.
figure out how to handle that. It's way closer to nature than a lot of the things that you see. And to your point about the sugar, I agree with you. Like having a low amount of sugar because it's meant to make the flavor come out. Like pick a good sugar, one that again is closest to its form in nature, and make sure the fat outweighs it. If there's 20 times more sugar than there is fat, that's a problem. But the fat outweighed the sugar here. So for me, how that's going to behave in your body is so much better than if it was the opposite.
Exactly right. Okay. And, was he just trying to get engagement, like piss people off, make people talk about it in comments so that more people would see his post and so he could get more brand sponsorships? Like, we've got to remember that that's a big motivator for a lot of people when they say stuff on the internet that seems crazy, is because they want to make people angry, because that gets you shown. So, according to the North American Olive Oil Institute, aboutoliveoil.org, extra virgin olive oil is naturally extracted, so is olive oil. But olive oil is a blend of a refined olive oil and a pressed virgin olive oil. It has less antioxidants and more acidity.
Hmm. Okay. Huh.
Isn't that interesting?
Interesting. That is. That's probably why the first one was extra. Probably why it smells so buttery. You know how sometimes olive oils are totally fresh, but they smell slightly rancid? Like that
Yes.
acidity, and you're like, "Ooh, is this even any good?" And then the real good ones smell like so buttery. I just want to like take the bottle and pour it in my mouth. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Well, and
Refined sugar.
when you do spend more on a high quality olive oil, it is kind of like a vitamin, right?
Yes.
Because you're getting all of that amazing life extending fatty acids and all kinds of other amazing things that are in that olive oil that you're
Yeah.
not going to really get anywhere else in your diet.
100%. And with the way that we live such busy lives, we end up eating out more than we would like. And I am so disappointed in restaurants' choices, especially the one where it's like, oh, I'm going to go pick up some Thai food, or oh, we're going to, grab something quick. Oftentimes there you can smell it when you walk in the restaurant that they're using an oil that is very poor quality. Most likely because of its ability to hit a high heat temp, right? But that doesn't mean
Hmm.
that it's good for you at all.
Right.
And, if you can at home at least be in control of the one that you put in you, knowing that that's the one that goes in you the most, your body's going to be
Hmm.
so happy. Like that's a great choice. I completely agree with you in terms of, I mean, a lot of people take fish oil every day. Why not just make
Right.
sure you're getting a good amount of olive oil while cooking with that? You can say fish oil is not cheap. A capsule of fish oil,
Not cheap at all.
yeah, you could spend $20 on a bottle of olive oil and crush it.
And it would last longer.
I love that.
That is that is true. Yes, olives also antioxidants, right? So interesting. But yeah, I was digging around then looking for other tomato sauces, and like here we have Publix. Their like natural line green wise has extra virgin olive oil in it and maybe 3 grams of sugar. I mean, it was a pretty good option. And then there were some other ones that were a little more artisanal.
Mhm.
That fit the bill. So if that is something that you're worried about, you certainly can read the label.
Yeah.
And like with label reading, I think my favorite tip is if you're someone who is big into label reading, then grocery pickup is sometimes a good option. So even when you're just looking through the grocery pickup site of the store that you shop at, making your list, you can read labels at home when you have the energy because like a grocery store is designed to put you into a trance.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it. But
I know new
I
seasons is
don't
my
like
favorite
the
trance ever. I'm like, "Oh, I'll get a little coffee. Oh, I'll go grab some little like snacks in the produce area. Oh, we've got something for me
no.
to taste up here. Great. I'll just hang out here all day."
Oh my gosh, they're playing my favorite artist from the 80s.
Yes,
Uh,
that's the best when they have great music on.
I know. But
That's so
we
true.
want to be on, like that's one way that we can throw the grocery budget, obviously, is to be in a trance. But another way to really spike that cortisol and get really stressed out really quick is
Mhm.
to try to figure out everything on in every ingredient and everything that we're buying
Oh,
for hours in real time.
yep.
So if you're someone who reads labels, going ahead of time and kind of it's almost like reading the menu ahead of time, right? Like
Mhm.
going to the Instacart or the whatever it is site of the place, Kroger pickup or whatever.
Yeah.
Then what you can do is learn what brands you want to buy ahead of time and then you can write those on your list and that will save you a lot of stress because you won't be under the gun trying to figure out and compare while you're also in the middle of your day.
Yeah, and most likely you've got like a child that's like, "Mom, can I get this? Mom, can I get that?" And you're like, "I'm just trying to read a label. Come on." You can't. You're like, decision making process is really getting thwarted here. Okay, like I just need to get in, get the things I need, and get out.
No
That's a
kidding.
that is a great tip though. Thinking about it a little more prior is a great way to do that because the grocery stores are legit overwhelming. Of it's so true by
It's
design.
unbelievable. But if you need to be in a trance, that's my number one place.
That's so true. Like, I had a hard day at work. I'm gonna go wander around the grocery store. That's funny. Oh,
Well,
good.
thank you for being here. Tell us
Yeah.
about Supercube. Um, take a little time here and just tell us a little bit more about Supercube.
Supercube. Well, Molly loves it. She's been
I
helping
love
us like as an affiliate, which is just like so amazing. I'm so grateful for you, Molly, for putting the time and the love and the energy into it. It means a
I'm
lot to
obsessed.
us. Yeah, so Supercube is a coffee enhancing supplement, and it is not a powder masquerading as coffee. It is a more like a mousse, or what type of consistency would you like to describe it as, Molly? Do you have a way that you describe it to people when you kind of talk about the consistency? I'm curious if you have any adjectives you use to describe it.
I think I say it's kind of like a paste
Yeah, okay, like a paste or a
or
mousse or something.
like
Yeah.
a cold coconut oil.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, because the ghee solidifies and then it hardens up. Yeah.
I
That's
keep it
great.
though.
You keep yours in the fridge?
I do.
Yeah, a lot of people tell me that. I keep mine on the counter, but that's and it stays, solid that way too. But we're all in different environments. So if it's in a warmer climate, you definitely probably want to, if it's like 80 plus degrees outside for a long period of time, it's not like it will last that long, but it's good to have it in the fridge. But yeah, Supercube works by making, every cup of coffee that you have great in terms of setting your body up for success to ingest caffeine. So you're going to get the ability to focus, but all those things that are great about coffee, like your increased focus and your level of creativity, that just boost of energy, that metabolism boost and the circulation boost, all of those things that are great about coffee. But we all know that things, when they're that great, kind of come with a price. So there might be some trips to the restroom, or a little acid reflux, or the blood sugar drop, or nervous system engagement. All of those things usually disappear when you have a cup of coffee with Supercube in it, because it has the ingredients you need to surround the caffeine to work better. And
Hmm.
just kind of in the long term, we've recognized that when, and physiology backs this up, is that when our blood sugar is stable and our nervous system is regulated and our immune system is strong, our hormone symphony has a much better likelihood of playing out in a positive manner with less symptoms when all of those systems are supported. And that's where I'm finding that Supercube is really shining for people, like yourself and mine, who are kind of navigating well, as women, we spend the majority of our time navigating our hormones. So it just tends to be very supportive for that over long-term use.
It is so incredible. And the thing that I love about it the most, honestly, is that when I don't use it, I do have kind of a crash. And I really can tell, even because we met because you saw me putting collagen in my coffee
Yeah.
and you were like, what you put?
what you
And
doing?
I, thank God you saw that. But, I can't even imagine like, everyone always coffee and eggs are like two of the most debated things in nutritional research right now, and for
Yes.
a long long period of time, like over 50 years, these have
Yes.
been the debate. And the research on coffee is strong in terms of it can help with even there's like a landmark study saying that people who drank 6 cups of coffee or more that had diabetes had like a significantly lower risk of an early death. um,
Wonderful.
and I just like there are so many antioxidants in coffee. There are so many amazing benefits to coffee, but everyone thinks that if they're going on a wellness journey, they've got to stop drinking coffee. And that's what brought you
Yeah.
to create the product, was you didn't want to stop drinking coffee.
No, I didn't. And I did go through a
I
period of not drinking coffee and was supporting my tea for probably about 10 years. I was still drinking caffeine, but there was
hmm
something about the coffee at that time that just wasn't working for my body. I'm in my 40s now. This was when I was in my early 20s, and I believe that it was because I had this genetic predisposition to having these types of headaches that were more like strokes. So I just had to listen to my body on what worked for me, but I was like, well, this sucks, man. I got to figure
yeah,
out how to make this work better. I
that
like
does suck.
coffee. So now I do like half decaf. Some days I'll do a whole decaf. Some days I'll do regular decaf. It mostly just depends on where I'm at in my cycle, but there is always a scoop or two of cube in whatever I'm drinking that's warm and
Oh my god.
caffeinated.
Oh wait. So
Yes.
code Molly Super gets you 20% off.
Woo!
MOLLYIS super, and I'll put it in the show notes. We'll also put the link to lalaswellness.com. And you're on Instagram, Supercube and Lala's Wellness.
Yes, they are. Lala's Wellness is kind of my personal one. We're trying, I'm transitioning out of the clinic and starting to get a little more coachified. So that's where you'd connect with me if you just wanted to have a conversation. And then Supercube is, yeah, go learn about Supercube Me. That's the Instagram handle, is where you would learn about how to get that coffee enhancing supplement in your cup in the morning so you can stop drinking your coffee naked.
Love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate being here, and let's do it again soon.
Thank you for being here today. We are Women's Gut Health on YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. In the show notes, you'll find the recipe share drive, citations to evidence supporting this topic, and fun links we discussed today. See you next week.